hopefully you're in the right place, developing cross-platform native apps with AppStudio for ArcGIS, the basics. But we are going to show code, we are going to get into stuff, so it's not going to be super basic here. Right after that, this in the same room, if you're interested, is the advanced next course on AppStudio. My name is Chris LeSueur. I'm the product manager for AppStudio. And here with me is Brooke Reams, an AppStudio developer, and Loie, close enough, yeah. Oh man, Jembon, who's also an AppStudio developer on our team. So AppStudio for ArcGIS, a little raise of hands. Who's played around with it? Who's tried it out? Downloaded it? Good. Okay. Oh, good. Maybe a fourth or third of you. A little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I'll give an introduction to AppStudio. And then Brooke's going to talk about AppStudio developer tools, introduction to QML, the language we write in for AppStudio. And then we're going to move on to see some templates and samples and components of AppStudio, using AppStudio. So the key message, or the key thing to remember about AppStudio is it's a tool for writing native apps where you create or construct, write the code for your app once, and then you can build that for multiple platforms. And we support iOS and Android, also Linux, Windows, and Mac. Now, probably the majority of people are doing iOS and Android. They want mobile apps on smartphones and tablets, but we also support these desktop platforms as well, and we have users that are building for some apps for all of these. I wanted to give you just a quick example of some people, some organizations that are using AppStudio and the kind of things that they're building. So we have customers and partners who are creating apps based off of a number of templates that we have. We have 3 different primary templates, and they're creating apps off of those. I'll point out the one on the left there. That's the TERT app. It's for doing citizen science of capturing information of sea turtles. And this was built by a marine biologist who took our templates, put in his web maps, his data, his branding, and has published these to the Google and Apple app stores. We have Esri partners who are taking our customers and partners who are creating completely custom apps. So the one animating there is GoTime. It is a app for built by an Esri partner, VHB, who was contracted by Mass DOT, and it shows these road signs that tell you how long it's going to take you to get to the airport or such. It's an app that shows the information from Mass DOT's network of signs and sensors they have out there. And that's been published into the stores. Esri Professional Services builds, we have a professional services group who builds applications, mostly Brooke here. But here we have one that's for Allegheny County. It's a Trails app. So you select you probably saw this in the plenary actually. You select your park, you select a trail, it gives you information about that trail, even like elevation profile and the weather for the day you might be out there hiking. So it reads in GIS data locally, it reads in services and things from the web. And then Esri ourselves, we build apps with AppStudio. Survey 123, if you're familiar with that, an app for data collection, form-based data collection, is built using AppStudio. And because of that, when we release a new version of Survey 123, we release it on all the platforms at the same time, because we can write it once and build it for these multiple platforms. And then a few others, we have this Esri Labs, and this is where kind of experimental apps, you're free to use them. We don't support them. You can't call tech support or anything, but it's our labs environment, and we have published a few apps. The one on the right there is the Tile Package Creator, which is recently published. That's actually a desktop application for creating tile packages from online services, and allows you to zoom to location, select an area, and create a tile package from an online service. That's just a rundown, give you an idea of the type of things people are building and what can be built with AppStudio. AppStudio comes in 2 different editions or levels of licensing. There's AppStudio Basic. And AppStudio Basic, every ArcGIS user that has an ArcGIS organization login, whether it's ArcGIS Online or your portal for ArcGIS, or ArcGIS Enterprise, I should say. If you have a login and you're a level 2 user, level 2, the level 1 and level 2 was introduced recently. Level 2 means that you can create a map. If you can create a map in ArcGIS Online, you can create an app with AppStudio. And these are based on our templates that we have. A map tour, map viewer, and a quick report template for crowdsourcing data. If you can create a map in ArcGIS Online, you can create an app. Then there's AppStudio Standard, and that is a separate licensed application. This is if you want to customize the code. If you want to deploy the app within an organization, you need AppStudio Standard licensing. With AppStudio Basic, your apps need to be public. You can publish them to the app stores, but the data and the apps themselves need to be public. I'll go a little more about how you get AppStudio Standard here because we announced a new developer subscription was announced at the plenary. So the way you get AppStudio Standard is that you subscribe to this Builder edition. There's different levels of our developer subscription, but the Builder edition of the developer subscription gets you AppStudio Standard and a few other things. And if you're interested more about this, go to developers.arcgis.com and there's information and pricing and such there. But so this Builder level gets you our client SDKs, meaning iOS, Android, these other SDKs, configurable apps and builders. So being able to configure a web app using Web App Builder. And you see there, it gives you AppStudio Standard. It gives you an ArcGIS Online org and the other apps. This is all for development, it's not for production, but it gives you an ArcGIS Online org and apps to test and to work with. So you'll get Collector and Workforce and Server 123 to be able to work with, and gives you an ArcGIS Desktop Basic license. Let you know that this is new. It's priced the same as we were charging for AppStudio Standard. So now you get AppStudio Standard plus things like this ArcGIS org and these other and the Desktop Basic to work with. So it's kind of a nice thing. We're giving you more at this new Builder level of of our developer plan, and that's how you get AppStudio Standard. If you have, I also let you know that that's as you can kind of see there, it's the second to lowest plan. If you have an EDN license, and we haven't really talked about this in detail, but if you have an EDN license today, an Esri Developer Network license, or you use the Esri Developer Network, those will be migrated into the Esri Developer subscription. So your EDN license today, when you, I don't know if you can switch it over now or when you just subscribe or when it comes up for renewal, it will move into one of these levels, and you'll basically have a AppStudio Standard when you move to one of these levels. So if you want to go in more details about that, talk to me afterwards and stuff, but it's going to open up AppStudio Standard to a lot more of our users, which I'm excited about, and more people will be using the tool. All right, switch gears right back really quick to AppStudio Basic, because this is the only really slide I'm going to talk about it, because it's a developer conference. We're going to talk a little bit more about code and things. So AppStudio Basic is where you go to appstudio.arcgis.com, you go to the website, you can fill out a web form with your, connect up your maps, your services, upload some images, give us some text, and really from there you can create an app that can be published into the app stores. These are just templates, and usually I say people want to go a little further, but you can create an app, a public app, based on AppStudio, based on these templates and using the AppStudio Basic. But I'm going to switch over, because this is a developer conference, we're going to go a little deeper, and Brooke's going to start tell us more about AppStudio, the AppStudio developer tools with AppStudio Standard, and what else you get.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Your number?
Number 3.
Okay, present.
Okay. Okay, so before I get into AppStudio Standard, I first want to start out by just talking about the different flavors of native app development. So at one end of the spectrum, you have AppStudio Basic, and this is what Chris was just talking about. This gives you templates that you can configure out of the box. You're really limited to what you can do, because again, this is just configuration. So if you're looking to make changes or enhancements to your apps, AppStudio Basic isn't really for you. It's more just configuring what's already there. Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the ArcGIS runtime SDKs, and with the runtime SDKs, you can develop completely custom apps, but you're really on your own in terms of finding a third-party developer IDE, getting your apps on your phone for testing, and also bundling your apps, getting them to the store, making sure they have all the right capabilities, display settings, all of those types of things. So the sweet spot is really this AppStudio Standard, and with AppStudio Standard, you can develop completely custom apps, but you get a suite of developer productivity tools that help you do a number of things. So AppStudio Standard comes with templates and samples to help get you started. Also a powerful cross-platform IDE where you can write your code. A really nice workflow for testing your apps easily, getting them onto your devices for testing. And a cloud-based service to build and deploy your apps and get them to the stores. So I'm going to go through all the different tools that AppStudio Standard has to offer, and the first is the templates and samples. With the templates, you get templates already set up with libraries imported, and in many cases we even have templates like from the AppStudio Basic. So there's 3 different templates that you can configure with AppStudio Basic. But with AppStudio Standard, you can actually go in, make enhancements, make changes to those templates, and completely customize those apps. We also have samples that do very specific bits of functionality, and so with the samples you can learn how to do certain things like query-related records, or download a tile package from ArcGIS online, or work with graphic layers, all sorts of different things. And those are provide a really good starting point to get you started with your app. So once you create a new app, you can open it and start working with the code through an IDE called Qt Creator. And Qt Creator is actually installed with AppStudio. It's a cross-platform, and it's got all the niceties of a good IDE. It's got context-sensitive help, IntelliSense, and one of the really nice things about it is that you can actually run your app right from the IDE. And when you run your app from the IDE, it opens in what's called AppStudio Player, which is also installed with AppStudio, or it's actually part of AppStudio. And this allows rapid development. And again, you can run it right from the IDE using Player. So the workflow is really here kind of shown in this graphic on the right. Develop, make changes to your UI or your business functionality, test it out. Maybe you don't like the color, or you want to change the color, you want to tweak the font. Just make the changes and again, test your app. It makes it very easy to test small changes right there on your desktop as you develop the app. Now, that's how you can develop or test on desktop. You can also easily test your app on your mobile device. And we have the AppStudio Player available as an app that you can download from Google Play and the Apple App Store. So the workflow is to upload your app to ArcGIS Online or Portal. And then once it's in your organization account, you can download the app to the player on your device. And then so log into the player on your device, then download the player, or download the app on your device, and then run the app and test it out right there on your mobile device, either your phone or your tablet. AppStudio Standard also comes with several settings that define the app installation info. So this includes the app icon and launch image. So the icon that's going to show up on your phone or your tablet, and then the launch image that shows up when you launch your app. And this is all done through a really easy to use user interface. So there's no extra code involved to get your app icon or your launch image. It's really just a matter of browsing to an image on your machine and setting it. There's also a very nice UI for choosing the supported devices. So maybe you only want to support desktop, or maybe you only want to support phones instead of tablets and desktop. So you can just a matter of literally turning on a switch, choose which devices you want to support. And again, it's all handled through this nice user-friendly UI, no extra code involved. All the heavy lifting is done by AppStudio behind the scenes. Another user interface for choosing which display settings and orientations you'd like to support. So maybe for desktop, you want to show full screen, or maybe for tablet, you only want to show portrait, or you only want to show landscape, or both. And you can set these display settings independently for tablets and phones. Also, you can choose whether you want to show the status bar when your app is running. So the bar at the top that shows like the time and the battery percentage. You can choose whether those things display or not. And once again, this is all just a matter of turning on a switch. And finally, the device capabilities. So which devices are which device capabilities are your app going to use? Maybe your app needs a camera, a microphone, Bluetooth. Again, just by turning on the options and the devices that your app is going to use, AppStudio handles the rest of the work for you. Now, probably one of the most powerful tools with AppStudio is CloudMake. So CloudMake is an Esri cloud service that allows you to choose which platforms you want to build your app for. So, maybe you want to build your app for Android and iOS. It's just a matter of checking on the boxes that you want for the platforms that you want to support. And then when you analyze the build, you'll get another option to actually create the build. And Esri CloudMake, AppStudio CloudMake, does all the work of actually building the executables to run on the devices that you choose. So, and that's done through machines that we have in the cloud. So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about QML. So what exactly is QML? It stands for Qt Meta Language. It's a JSON-like declarative language that defines a user interface as a tree of objects with properties. And JavaScript is actually used in QML as a scripting language. So I have a sample here at the bottom left. This is a text element defined completely with QML. So you can see the JSON-like structure to define, in this case, the ID, the absolute position of this text element on the device, the color, the size of the font, and also the actual text value. Now in the sample on the right, this is a combination of both QML and JavaScript. So here we have QML to define a button object, and that button object has properties for its XY position, also the text that will be displayed on the button. And then we have an event, or in QML it's called a signal, with the line of JavaScript code that actually toggles the visibility of the button. So when the button is clicked, the text element shows or disappears. So I think the best way to learn how to write QML code is to actually see a very simple sample. So what I want to do is open up AppStudio and do a quick hello world first code with QML. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is AppStudio standard, what I have displayed here on my screen. And what you're seeing here are all these items in the gallery are actually apps that either I've developed or someone else in my ArcGIS Online or portal organization have developed. And I can double click any of these apps right here in my gallery and run them through the player. Or I can open up the code for them using this Qt Creator button right here. What I'm going to do is actually create a new app. So to do that, I'm going to double click this item up here at the top left. And so here's where you can see the different templates and samples that I have available to me. So under the templates, I have those 3 different templates that come with AppStudio Basic. So I could customize those and make enhancements or changes, whatever I want to do. I also have starter templates. So these are just very basic templates with the appropriate libraries imported. So the app here is the most basic, but there's also one with the ArcGIS runtime libraries imported. So this will get me started here if I want to start writing code with ArcGIS runtime. There's also templates for layouts. And here are the samples that I was talking about. So there's many different samples that you can choose from. Everything, attachment editor, barcode reader, base map picker. Again, these give you a little bit of assistance when you're looking to do something very specific. And also there are enterprise templates. So here, I could actually write my own player, or I could create my own Survey 123. So we provide all the source code for those apps. So I'm actually going to start with the starter templates, and I'm going to use the most basic for this demo. This is just a really simple Hello World demo, not using any ArcGIS runtime, just to show how you can write QML code. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a name. I'll call it demo, and click OK. And once I click OK, the app gets added as an item in my gallery. So now I can double click it to run it, and it'll run right here in the player. And you can see it doesn't do anything really. All it does is it has some text. It's very, very basic app. So what I want to do is actually open up the code for this app. So with it selected, I'm going to go to the Qt Creator icon. So this opens up the code. And because this app doesn't really do much, there's not a lot of code here. But I do want to go through kind of what it is doing. So first we have some import statements, just some basic libraries that it's importing. Then you see this app container or this app object. And this is just a container for my app. All apps written in AppStudio have this app container. And then within the app, I have this text element, the one that you saw on the screen. And you can see here the JSON-like structure of properties and values. I'm going to make a few changes here. I'm going to change the text to say Hello World. And I'm going to change the color to red. And now I'm going to save my changes, and I'm going to show you how I can run this right through the IDE. So here are my changes. Again, making small tweaks. I can then test out my changes right from the IDE. My app opens through Player. What I want to do now is actually add a button to toggle the text object, to toggle the visibility of the text object. So I'll just create a new button object. And I'm going to anchor this button at the top of my app. So parent being the container. I'm going to anchor it to the very top of the app. And also I want to put it in the horizontal center. Now anchors are a very useful functionality in QML, and I'll go back to that once I show the app. I want the button to say click me, and I'm going to save my changes and run the app. So now you can see my button up here at the top. It's at the top in the horizontal center. Now with the anchors, they make it really easy to program for different size devices. So if I were to run this app on a tablet, you can see using the anchors, my button is still centered and it's still at the top. So QML makes it very easy to write apps for different size devices, different types of devices, without a whole bunch of extra code. So currently my button doesn't actually do anything. We haven't programmed it to do anything. So I'm going to use that on-clicked signal to toggle the visibility of my text. Now I need to give my text item or text object an ID so that I can reference it from my button object. So I'll call it Hello World. And then, let me move this. So when the button is clicked, all I want to do is toggle the visibility so that if it's currently visible, it'll no longer be visible, and if it's not currently visible, it will be visible. So now when I run my app and I click my button, my text element is toggled. So a very simple Hello World introductory app, but you can see how easy it is and how easy it is to read QML code. Again, JSON-like, and using anchors, we can have a lot of power over the display. And yeah, so that's the demo I have. So thank you.
Right. You see my slide? Yeah. So thank you, Brooke. Yeah, a few things I just want to like reiterate about that is that, these she positioned AppStudio as a productivity tool. With the download of AppStudio Desktop is you get that AppStudio environment for managing your apps, creating new apps, all the samples. It also installs the runtime that you need underneath, so you don't have to sync up or go find the correct ArcGIS runtime. That's installed as well, and Qt Creator. So really, that one install, boom, you're up and going, and good to go with that. So that's a huge productivity enhancement. Also, the player. I just want to talk a little bit about the player. It's a great tool for not only you testing, but having others in your organization test. They can install Player. You can push an app to them, just as we now share maps and data in ArcGIS organizations and ArcGIS Online. This now is sharing apps with other people through the same mechanism, and sharing as an item type in a group that we're used to. So you can have others in your organization, your manager, whoever. Hey, install this free player from the stores or whatever. I'm going to push this app to you. They can check. Oh, it looks great. Just change these colors or add this, and kind of a way to test and to go back and forth with. You can also use Player to actually push apps to an organization that they use in the field or they use for other purposes. So it can be a way to manage the apps you push out into your organization. So it's a key tool. The feedback we hear from AppStudio users is that this is a huge time save to have this Player application to test on multiple devices, but to also get it to multiple other people. And then, of course, the Cloud Make capability is really key. So you don't have to set up a build environment, separate build environment for iOS, Android, Mac, Linux. We take care of that. You just install the desktop developer tools on your one machine, and that can be a Windows machine, that can be a Mac, that can be even a Linux machine if you want. You install the desktop developer tools, you develop your app on the machine that you're comfortable with and that you want to, and then we do all the builds in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about that piece of it. So a huge time save with AppStudio. All right. Any quick questions right now? We're going to go into a little more code and then see some samples, but any quick questions, something that comes to mind? Yes? So we, the question was, do you also license each app that you publish? This is an ArcGIS runtime. The apps you create are using ArcGIS runtime or part of runtime if they have mapping components. And we subscribe to that licensing model, which means that you either, most of the functionality is free. You can just create your app with AppStudio and you don't owe us anything more or license anything more to license to from Esri. But if you have certain advanced functionality, you need to unlock that using either an ArcGIS Online, someone logging in with an ArcGIS Online account, or through an ArcGIS runtime license, that's a whole nother kind of conversation. So we do, and we're talking like advanced functionality like offline geocoding and some analysis capabilities in the app. But most of the apps you create with AppStudio, even like editing, map viewing, editing, and things like that, there's no separate license per app when you deploy it. No. Yep.
What about support for third-party frameworks? ESPF, KPM, Google Fonts.
I'm not familiar with those. Next session, sorry, or talk to that gentleman over to the right. But yeah, I'm not familiar with those. But okay. Cool. Yep. So what happens if you test out the camera and you're in Player? Is that what you're? Yeah. So we put a lot of work into make sure that our camera component works across these multiple platforms. It works on. I can tell you the camera component we have now will work on iOS, Android, Windows. Okay, so it's a good question. We have something called we have a console that you can actually connect to from your player, and see your a debug type information coming into your desktop from the player. So if you're running into a bug on an iPad and you're running in Player, you can actually get that information and see it inside of a console on your desktop.
What is the player? That's the question. The question is, what is this player thing? You'll get a lot more information in the next session, which is the advanced one. But what is a player like is it's very similar to when you're writing a web application. What is a browser? Browser runs your HTML files, your JavaScript files, your CSS files. Do you compile your web application? No, right? You write a code and you refresh your browser, it'll run. If you run your browser on your own machine, it is called a player. Or if you run your browser on your own other machine, it is still your own environment that you're testing on. If you put your website to a website provider, or in this case app stores or enterprise deployment, then you have to create a binary and then go it over there. So the player is a special application that AppStudio has provided, which will help you interpret your code or actually render your code the way you have written it on multiple devices, including the device that you're currently working on. So your app will run natively inside of a player and will exhibit the same characteristics that you have programmed. So camera will be a camera through your app. Access to Bluetooth or microphone will be the same. And if you have any problems, it will be the same. If it works great, that will be the same too. Okay, so it's a true representation of your app running inside of your device. The only difference is we have not compiled the code. That's the only difference. So we are executing the code on the fly. And this is something that we are doing in AppStudio, and it's magic. We'll not tell you how, but it's amazing to use it. All right. Any other question? I think somebody here had a question. You had a question, right? Okay, so does QML support auto layout? I'm not too familiar with auto layout, but it does has a lot of feature functionality that you're looking to write applications. So if you're looking for some sort of a layouting like grids, lists, or some sort of a partition page kind of header, footer, yes, those things are all there. And those things are all, I mean, you'll get much more information in the next session, but yes, all the things you need to write the app is there. All right, I think let's get going. Okay, one last question. Sorry? Oh, what is the current version of AppStudio? We're happy to tell you that we released a new version of AppStudio last Friday, and the current version is 1.4. So you should be using the latest and greatest version of AppStudio, which is 1.4. Okay, so for details on those things, you got to stay for the next session.
We'll get to that in a little bit, yeah, actually. All right. Jumping the gun here. Loier is going to talk about some QML examples, templates, samples, and components. I'm going to click the slide here, and you can and turn the time over to him.
Thanks, Chris. So I want to quickly run through a few demos to show you more possibilities and tools that are at your disposal. After I'm going to write and build an app. So one of the templates that we have is a MapTor template, and it comes with many features, but these are just a few of the features I want to highlight. If there is a Palm Springs MapTor template in the App Store, and some of you might have already seen it, but you may not have noticed these few features. The first is that a MapTor template supports animated GIF. So if you have an animated GIF, you can use that on your landing page. So let me show you how that looks.
Here.
Okay, so this is a MapTor of Los Angeles, and as you can see, it has an animated image, and you can do that to your apps as well. That's going to make your apps more alive to your users. The second thing I want to show about this app is it has the ability to play videos. So if you create your map tours from ArcGIS from the Story Maps website, if you create your story maps from the Story Map website, you can, and your story map has videos, you can make those available to your users in the form of a native application by creating a map tour. So this map tour, as you can see, when I click on an item, it shows me a video. And when I click on the play button, it brings up a web view. A web view is a QML component that loads web pages. So the way we are making the video available for you to play is by loading it on a web page, and you can play the video from the website that hosts that video.
But that's a web view. So you're not going into a separate web browser. It's a web view within your app.
Right.
Okay.
So
very cool.
You can show load websites within your application. If you prefer a browser experience, you can add. There is a button here to take you to the default browser of your device. So the last feature I want to talk about for the map tour template is the ability for it to work offline. This is new with 1.4. This was released just last week. And so if your users are using the app in places with little or no network connectivity, they will still be able to access all the features of your app. Everything is available, but the map is not yet available offline. But every other thing your user can experience. So I'm going to go offline. And in a second, it's going to refresh. And you see, I can still use the app experience. Even if I turn the app off and come back on, everything is already cached, so I can I have access to all the pictures. So the way this works is when you visit the map tour for the first time, all the data gets cached. The JSON and all these images are cached. So the next time you visit the app, the data is accessed from the cache. And users, so I'm going to go back online. And when I go back online, it's going to refresh. And if it takes time, you can, and your map should come back. If it doesn't come back, you can always click on the text to have it back. So now I have my map back. And so like I said, the data is cached. So if you want to clear the cache, you can go to the gallery page, and in the gallery page we have a menu. In the menu option, there is a clear cache button. So if you have multiple map tours in your app, they usually show up on this page, on the gallery page. Right now there's only one map tour, and you can see that this map tour is offline. And if I clear the cache, then I start afresh. So that's a new feature with 1.4. The next, I will just continue right here.
Okay.
So the next demo I want to show is of this application, the time slider, the TPK viewer. So this sample shows you how to log into your ArcGIS online organization, download tile packages, and then you can view your downloaded packages whether you're online or offline. And this is a good starter for you to write apps that work offline. So let me quickly show you how that works. So when I come to the landing page, I have the option to either sign in or to skip. I would choose to skip if I've already downloaded a TPK, but I don't have any downloaded, so I'll sign in. And once I sign in, it returns a token to the app, and the token does a search for all the TPK, and the app does a search with the token for all the TPKs that are in your organization. So you can see these are all the TPKs, and I have a switcher here between the local and the online. Oh, I already have something downloaded in my local device, but I can go and download another TPK, as you see. So one thing to note, you should know is all of these visual things that you see, the visual items, they're all components. They're all standalone and reusable pieces of code that you can take and plug into your application. So this just got done downloading, and now you can view the TPK and show less, show more. So if you and the source code for this is available in GitHub. Sorry. So the next thing I want to show you is a time slider. And what a time slider shows you helps you to visualize your data in segments by time. So if in ArcMap, Web App Builder, and the JavaScript API, there is already a time slider, but there was no time slider for native applications. So that's why we decided to build this component. And this is available for you. You can get it from the AppStudio Player. So let me go ahead and show you what the time slider does. So if you add the time slider to your app, this button at the bottom automatically appears. And to start the slider, you click on the button. And so the data that you see here, this data is, this shows you the gun deaths in the US, unfortunately, for 2 months of data from December 2012, mid-December to early February. So you can use the controls of the time slider to see how that data accumulates with time. The other thing that you can also drag the handle to a position in time where you want to see data. So this slider also has options that your users can further customize it. Let's say you want to see a range of the data instead of the cumulative data. For this case, maybe you want to see the casualties per week. And you can increase the speed. You can completely customize the time slider, which I'm going to show you in the next. So you can change the theme color, you can change the speed, and every time the handle moves, it emits a signal that you can listen to. So the source code for this, I already mentioned, is available, and this works best for point data. If you want to use this for point data less than 2,000 points, and at the moment it won't work with an image service. And if you're trying to use polygons, very large polygons that typically take longer to render, that typically take longer to render, it will not work well for cumulative data, but it will work well with a range slider. So the last thing I want to do is I'm going to build an app, a time slider application. So the first thing we will do is let's create a new app, and let's use one of the starter samples. And I want a Hello World runtime app that has a map with it. So let's call it time slider. And that creates my app. So the Hello World app with a map is just an app. It's just a map with a header, as you can see. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add the time slider to my map. So the way I do it is I go to the time slider sample app, and I will drag this time slider folder into my new apps folder. So this is my new app. I copy this over to my folder. And once I've copied it over, we can close this. Let's take a look at the code. So you can see the folder now appears in Qt Creator. So my code is shows you like I said, it's I have an app. I have three components, three main components. I have the app, which is the main window, right here, and then I have a header. The blue header that you see is the rectangle. Inside the rectangle, I have a text, which is this, and then right next to below the rectangle is a map. So let's add the time slider. Before we add the time slider, we want to import the folder. So we import, and let's add it right inside the bottom of the map. And let's give it an ID because we're going to use that later. So now if we run, we're going to see the time slider in the map. So that's what you needed to do to add it. But then we have no data. So if I click play, it tells you to provide a valid time extent. This takes two things, one of two things. Either you provide a start date and an end date, or you provide it a time-enabled layer. And it has a layer property where you can provide that layer. So I'm going to add a time-enabled layer to the time slider so that we can see data. So we can see it work. So I have I'm going to go to my desktop and copy the code. So So this code that I've just pasted does three things. The first thing it does is, you can see I'm adding an ArcGIS feature layer right here, and this layer is a layer showing fire data in the US from last week. So, and the second thing that it's doing is, right here I'm saying once the layer has initialized, so once the layer has initialized, pass the layer to the time slider's layers property. So let me make sure I correct my time slider ID so that it's the same. So, and the third thing that the code that I pasted does is, right here it says on status change, once the map is ready, zoom to the extent of the layer, because all I have is data for the United States. I don't want to show the entire world. So that is enough to give our the time slider a good look, to display the data for us to view. So you can see the fire data from last week, but if we look at the time slider, what you notice is the points, the tick marks are close to each other. That's because the way I defined it in the layer, I defined the time interval in hours. You can override that in the time slider. So since it is 1 week worth of data, I'm going to change the interval definition to 1 day. So the property is called a step unit, and I want that to be days, and I want the step size to be 1. So the increment is 1 day. So now we can play a time series animation and see how the fire incremented, how the number of fires per day over the entire week. So the last thing I want to show is, so that is our application. The last thing I want to show is how you can build this application. So let's go ahead and build it. To build the app, I want to log into my ArcGIS online organization first and upload it to the cloud. To the cloud. So these are all the apps in my organization. So you can use the search bar to narrow down what you're looking for. So I'm going to upload my app. Click on the add. Now, once my app is uploaded, I can now build it using the make tool. I will select just the Mac OS and then run the build. When I request the build, it gets queued. And so once the build is complete, I'm going to get an email saying that my DNG is ready, and then I can download it from my ArcGIS online organization and run it on my device. So
awesome. We're not going to sit and watch the thing build, but it doesn't take too long. I mean, typically just a couple minutes. Awesome, thank you, Loie. Am I on there? Yep. So some really cool samples. I mean, showed some extending the templates, showed some working with samples and how you can easily kind of move these components and get a lot of functionality, like with the time slider there. A little bit, just kind of wrapping up here, a little bit about the roadmap. We just had 1.4 release. The number of improvements to our templates, as well as we moved to Qt 5.8. We really didn't talk about Qt much today, but we talked about writing QML. Well, Qt is the underlying technology which makes this cross-platform stuff possible, and we utilize our Esri Qt runtime SDK. But we moved to a new version of Qt, which as a developer you can take advantage of some things, and I said we updated the templates and another few enhancements and documentation fixes. The next big release for us is coming this summer, and that is moving to version 2.0, and then we'll be going into beta on version 2.0 this summer. And that brings us to runtime 100 underneath the hood. You might have heard us talk about it as quartz in previous years. This gives us a lot of cool stuff like vector tile base maps and coming a new offline sync environment and things. So that's coming further in the future, but we'll still support our current generations of runtime apps for a time being as well. Some resources, to learn more, it's appstudio.arcgis.com is where you can learn more about the application. And you can actually right there configure and manage your apps when you log into the website there. Access to documentation, help, support, links to the GeoNet forums, as well as this is where you can download the desktop tool as well. If you don't have an AppStudio standard license, you can still download the desktop tool and work with it, try it out. You just can't build those. You just can't create a build for those executables for those other environments. But you can play it right on your desktop, try it out, mess around with the code. The last very bottom thing, I threw this out that was so cool. We got the link doesn't want to work, but it's a tutorial. We found out a tutorial from one of our, from University of Washington. They had a class, and they learned AppStudio, and part of their class was to actually create an AppStudio tutorial for creating an app. So there's a number of apps, tutorials out there created by students, which I think is great. We don't have to write all the samples, and they're doing it for us. So there's some, we're growing the number of samples, we're growing the number of tools, and luckily we have some help from others in doing that as well. Just last thing is, take the survey. We were asked you to take a survey on the app. I don't know exactly how to do it. I think you just you find this session, then you hit like all 5 stars in the row, and then you hit submit, and you're good. But right now, we have a few minutes. We'll open it up to some more questions. And if you didn't hear, there is another session in this room after. The next session is the AppStudio Advanced session. So yeah, any questions? Come on, someone's got a question. Yep. Mm-hmm. Python? We do not work with Python, but I can tell you, I'm going to point you to Brooke here. Brooke is a Python guru and specialist, and she brought her Python skills over to working with AppStudio. and things. So I think your programming and scripting skills were able to transfer over.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a microphone, but yeah, I'm actually a Python developer, and I just picked up AppStudio pretty quickly. It was really easy to learn. So yeah, if you're a Python developer,
there's a mic right there.
Okay. Yeah.
Just turn it. Yeah.
Yeah, so AppStudio runs with QML and JavaScript. Those are the two execution environments. And since it runs on mobile devices, and I'm assuming Python doesn't run on mobile devices, so we cannot use Python. It's more of a limitation on the devices that we are hitting at. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
There'll be an advanced section next. I'll be handling the advanced AppStudio Advanced, where we'll go deeper into more of the things that they just said. We'll be digging deeper and learning a lot more. So if you have more questions, if you're curious, if you're already developing apps and you want to know more details, do come back in about 30 minutes. We start in the next 30 minutes. It'll be it'll be a sort of a deep dive into more of the technological bits, where no question is every question is welcome. So we'll be equipped to answer most of your questions.
All right. Well, thank you, and you can come up here and ask any questions if you like. But thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.